Hey there, students. Tom Ritchie here, and we are here for the night before APUSH. I am here as the supreme leader of APUSH. Kim Jong-un is alive, but he's not here. He never accepts my invitation. So I thought if you can't have him on your show, then join him. Okay, so some folks are pressing F to pay respects for the hair around my ears. Let me do one for the gram. Make sure to go to crowdcast.io/Tom Ritchie if you want to ask questions during the broadcast, or if you want to join our fireside chat tonight. Okay, so I am here tonight as the supreme leader of APUSH. All right, let's do a little one for the gram here. Let's see. Instagram at Tom Ritchie. Okay, Instagram at Tom Ritchie. We'll start off with some shout outs and then we'll get down to business. Okay, we'll get down to business. All right, so with that, let's see. We'll go ahead and all right. Actually, let's see my hair. Let's see, get my hair like this. Okay. So with that, let's see, let's go. Y'all give me just a second, and y'all definitely want to go like that photo. Let's see, hashtag Supreme Leader. Okay, now I'm going to take some questions from Twitter followers. So make sure on Twitter that you're hashtagging Supreme Leader. Okay, so Supreme Leader, and let's see, North Korea. Let's see what they have to say here. All right, so North Korea. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get that going. And where are my new Instagram followers? Okay, we got APUSH tomorrow. Eddie Berger, T-Bird, Don't Shoot, perhaps Bot. Okay, so let's see what we've got here. We've got a few more folks here. We've got Josh Standel. All right, Good Times, 031, Macy Graney, Matt Brand, Carson Baldwin, Blaine McDonald, Genevieve with a 3 in there, Summit H, Crackerman 2, Gracie Bringola, let's see, Angie Mann, Juan Squared, Jenna XW, Ava Rees. All right, thank y'all so much for the, the support. Angela Cornell and Jay Wilkinson too. Thank y'all. We're going to be having a great time tonight. I'm going to be taking questions via Crowdcast, crowdcast.io. Remember, we've also got a premium stream, a night before, a fireside chat starting at 10 p.m. tonight. You can find information about that at crowdcast.io/Tom Ritchie. Okay, there we go. We are in costume. We're ready to go. All right, so let's get us ready for APUSH. Get some guidance from the Supreme Leader. So the New South and the Solid South, okay? So the New South is this idea that after the Civil War, that some Southerners are thinking that we're going to industrialize in the South. Okay, so the South is no longer going to be like exclusively dependent on agriculture. Okay, so no longer exclusively dependent on agriculture, diversifying and bringing in some some other ways to basically bring in industry. So Birmingham, Alabama, for example, if I've got any friends in Birmingham, Alabama, that is basically like when you think about Alabama versus Auburn, that game is always called the Iron Bowl. The reason why that game is called the Iron Bowl, War Eagle, by the way, War Eagle, Roll Tide, wherever y'all are coming from. And so the Iron Bowl, that is, I should have done this for Euro, right? I didn't do it as Martin Luther. But the Iron Bowl, because Birmingham became the steel making capital of the South. Okay, so you've got Birmingham, Alabama, the steel making capital of the South. The game used to be played in Birmingham. So now they alternate between Tuscaloosa and Auburn, but the game used to be played in Birmingham. So they used to call it the Iron Bowl. Now, that is what we mean by the New South. Now, also, that is, partly synonymous with, with Jim Crow being introduced here in the New South as well. So just to differentiate it from the Old South before the Civil War. Now, what the Solid South is, I don't know what to say to that. there. Let's see, Lucas, because I'm impersonating. I'm in northern costume. I'm a southern guy in a northern costume. So with that, North Korea is best Korea, right? So from there, we're yeah, y'all are giving me a hard time tonight. So then the solid South, basically what you're looking at with the solid South is this tendency among the South to basically support Republican candidates. So United States presidential election, let's see, 1904, for example. Okay, so let's see. So we're going to go to, so we're going to see here, let's see, the internet's being a little bit slow tonight, but let's see, wait for it. Okay, so 1904 United States presidential election. So let's take a look here, and we're going to see the phenomenon of the solid South. Yeah, if you're asking questions on Twitter, people who follow me on Twitter can ask questions. I'm going to take a few Twitter questions and just hashtag it Supreme Leader. Okay, so as far as that goes, yeah, we've got here that trying to get my app site to load so that y'all can buy my app. Romulus APUSH review is going to be saying, whoa, Alton Parker, you got a big head there, a bigger head than Teddy Roosevelt. How'd you do that? So 1904. What we see here is basically like you see Teddy Roosevelt is being elected everywhere else. And then basically, the former Confederacy and Maryland and Kentucky. So you see here where the South is voting Democratic and everyone else is voting Republican. So the solid South is a phenomenon after the end of radical Reconstruction, where the South is just a reliable Democratic stronghold. Okay, so no matter who's running, no matter what the national mood. Now, of course, Wilson did pretty well in that election. But as we go, let's look at 1924, which is another one where keep cool with Coolidge. Okay, now you see here where basically, you see that everybody's liking Coolidge except for Wisconsin and the South. I mean, and basically this is the Confederacy, if you include the Indian territory did, ally themselves with the Confederacy during the Civil War. So the 1924 election, keep cool with Coolidge, great example of everybody voting one way and not. Now, of course, that keeps on through World War II, which is the end of this course. Okay, so, the South, the solid South was this phenomenon where the South voted Democratic. Okay, now, can we discuss the market revolution? Okay, so that's what's going on in the 1820s. Okay, so the 1820s, after the War of 1812, you see the beginnings of the market revolution, and you see new advances in transportation, such as steamships. Okay, so you see steamships. You can also see you see, of course, turnpikes, canals, Henry Clay's American system, okay, which was designed to try to, invigorate the economy and industrialize. But this is something that, of course, doesn't really fully take shape during the antebellum period. We also want to think about the factories at Lowell, Massachusetts. So the market revolution is where we're starting to see the economy of the United States is starting to shift from a purely agricultural economy to a market economy. Okay, so an agricultural economy is often referred to as a pre-capitalist economy. Okay, so a pre-capitalist economy, which is not the same as a proper capitalist economy. And so from there, that is the basis of the market revolution. Now, keep in mind that the United States doesn't really fully industrialize until a good bit later. Okay, doesn't fully industrialize until quite a bit later, and that's where you're seeing. That's where you're going to see the Gilded Age, okay, which is going to be a bit more involved, where the United States becomes a lot more committed to industrialization. All right, so as far as that goes, I think that is a great little summary of the market revolution. Okay, so the market revolution. All right, so looking at that, oops, I'm trying to actually realized I needed to do something real quick on my website. while I'm talking. So I'm kind of like teaching here, but also, you know, also doing some other things as well. All right. Oh, come on now. This mouse, y'all will see this mouse that drives me like just up the wall. Okay. This mouse, I'm going to replace it next week. Make sure y'all watch the ads on the videos so I can afford to, you know, to replace my mouse. Okay. That's a big priority for me next time around. Okay. So with that, let's see. Okay. So give me just a second here and I will get something that needs to go on my website. And that's because I'm about to show y'all a bunch of resources that I've assembled together on my DBQ page. So if y'all just give me just a moment, wash your hands, right? We're still kind of in the in Corona, right? So with that, let's see, web banner, wait, where's that? Okay. Oh. All right. Again, just bear with me just a second. Just need to throw something on here that I forgot, and we will be right with y'all. All right, and go check out the Romulus APUSH review app, App Store, and Google Play. All right, so as far as that goes, let's go and then now I think that we are ready to check out what's on the DBQ page, and I think y'all are really going to like this. Okay, so when you look at the options that you've got available, you know, in the description of the video. Okay, so the video description, there are a few things that you want to take a look at. Okay, so a few things that you want to take a look at. Let me go ahead and share the screen so that y'all can see some resources that I've made available to you. I think the resources really should come first. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and we're screen sharing. And there's a link when you go to crowdcast.io/Tom Ritchie. You can sign up for the APUSH Fireside Chat. That's a premium small group review, limited to 30 people. There are 12 in there right now, which means there are 18 possible spots. We're going to be doing a review like 90 minutes starting at 10 o'clock. And those are always a lot of fun if you want to participate in that. Romulus APUSH Review is available on the App Store and Google Play. Just a handy little trivia app, $1.99. Let's get it into the top 10. Okay, I want that thing in the top 10 by the time this broadcast is over. It's just a little trivia app. There's not anything especially fancy about it, but it's something that you can pick like any topic here, and then you can go in and you can say like, what were these acts, you know, and it's like, okay, you're just kind of going through a lot of the stuff that you're going to need for outside evidence later on there. And then we want to then take a look. I've got, if you search for, I've got the period 3 cheat sheet, which is available on my website. So you go to tomritchie.net. Okay, you can go to my website here. And if you go to the blog, there is I've only got it for period 3. Okay, I've only got it for period 3, take it or leave it. But I've got a period 3 cheat sheet. The cheat sheet that is, of course, it's not cheating. Remember, I've got a video about that. The College Board has said this is not cheating. It's basically like if the prompt's about the American Revolution. There is a bunch of contextualization, a bunch of outside evidence options, not a lot written on here, not a lot of narrative, not a lot of paragraphs, just basically kind of helping you go through here and like, okay, that's what I want for my outside evidence. The articles in the Constitution is page 2. And then finally, page 3 is, basically the first two-party system, Jefferson versus Hamilton, Washington's foreign policy, farewell address, and the Adams administration, Alien and Sedition Acts, and then the Virginia and Kentucky resolutions. So that's something that could be something that can help you out a bit. And then, so going to my DBQ page, okay, so courses, U.S. history, APUSH DBQ, AP U.S. history. And first of all, when you go to the DBQ page, you can see we've got some free APUSH review guides. So I've got that period 3 cheat sheet, which should be helpful to you, which is on my blog. And then you can go to marcolearning.com. You can download a pack of free study guides. Okay, you can download a pack of free study guides. And basically there is, when you click on U.S. history, there is one for each period. A very handy thing here. There is a link in the description to my DBQ page on my website where you can go and you can download these beautiful study guides, one-pagers for each period. This is a very handy way to study coming from my friends at Marco Learning. So that's something that you want to take a look. Just go to marcolearning.com and you'll be able to download those free study guides. Okay, so that is another thing that is available to you. So I've got an app. I've got lots of things on my APUSH DBQ page, new video on the APUSH DBQ. Also, an actual DBQ on the effects of democracy that you're welcome to download. You can look at that. You can do it if you haven't looked at my videos on that. And then below each of these, on the effects of democracy and on Reconstruction, we can view a sample essay. Now, Vicki, I was looking through, so you can see how I set it up, and you can go and see sample essays where I've got very, very detailed descriptions of like, this is what I'm doing. You can look in the in the margins over here, and you can see my notes. Okay, so this is lots of stuff for you that you can use to study tonight. And I'm explaining to you exactly what's being done. Every bit of this is labeled, so you're seeing exactly what I'm recommending, okay? So that's something that could be very, very useful to you in terms of preparing. Also, we've got the rubric, so the rubric is there, and I've got a video, like I said, the 2020 DBQ video, where I'm going through the rubric. So the rubric is there. Also, Marco Learning's annotation and setup guide. Okay, so the annotation guide, I wouldn't recommend printing because that's going to take time. So instead, I would recommend using this annotation guide, and then I would recommend organizing your setup. What are you going to do in body paragraph 1? What are your documents? What is your outside evidence? One piece of outside evidence in each paragraph, one POV plus in each paragraph. So lots of things there for you to get. And of course, remember the Romulus app, POV me, guy that's trying to sell an app, right? Okay, so with that, ladies and gentlemen, those are some resources that I think will be very helpful to you as you go through this. Okay, cheat sheets, y'all like the cheat sheets. Okay, so y'all, it seems like people are liking the cheat sheets. And Wikipedia, you wouldn't use Wikipedia to cite in your paper, but Wikipedia is a very reliable source for reference, and I will say that until my dying day, I think, unless Wikipedia changes sometime before there. So with that, okay, so some of y'all are, oh gosh, it's so funny seeing people that are oh gosh, Instagram here, history buffed. Okay, history buffed. You did follow me, and so I've got your name said there. All right. So with that, let's go ahead and take the next questions that we've got here. Okay. So remember, go to crowdcast.io/Tom Ritchie if you want to ask questions. But keep in mind all those resources on my DBQ page. Okay. So who's ready for the exam? Okay. Let's see in Crowdcast who's ready for the exam. Me and not me. All right. And we're going to go over to Twitter and take we're going to take a look here and see what we've got here. Does anybody have a question? Okay. Okay. So somebody actually, let's see. I thought that was me, but let's see if anybody's asking questions. MBH, how would you contextualize the age of Jackson? When I'm thinking about how to contextualize the age of Jackson, that's one of my sample DBQs. If you click the link in the description to go to my DBQ page, okay? So if you click the link to go to my DBQ page, the APUSH DBQ, you can see where I've put together some things here. And so we've got, of course, the free study guides, but let me show you kind of how I might contextualize the age of Jackson. So this was about the effects of democracy. Okay. Now, contextualizing, I think the most natural contextualization for the age of Jackson would be the era of good feeling and basically the demise of the Federalist Party. You could even go into the corrupt bargain. Okay. Now, of course, the corrupt bargain does show up in the DBQ on this one. So I would go into the era of good feeling. So this is basically one on the effects of democracy. And I see here, okay, so what I did here on a DBQ on the effects of democracy, I used as my contextualization the era of good feelings. Okay, now for contextualization, I recommend 3 content-rich sentences. Okay, so the era of good feelings. So after the War of 1812, want to make sure, okay, so we're sharing correctly. After The War of 1812, the United States experienced an era of good feelings when James Monroe was reelected to the presidency in 1820 almost unanimously. At that time, very few Americans actually cast votes for president, and the presidency was decided by elites. Now, content-rich sentences. Now, the third one I see here, this all changed with the rise of participatory democracy, sometimes called Jacksonian democracy, which allowed all white men to vote even if they did not have property. And so I've used here what we've got there. So going out, so I'm glad, got some great things there. Can we discuss the Compromise of 1850? Okay, so we are discussing the Compromise of 1850. So the Compromise of 1850, what we want to think about here, James Moore, I went over the Reconstruction era like pretty much exhaustively earlier today. Okay, so I went over the Reconstruction era. You can see where I've got, just type in Tom Ritchie Reconstruction Review. I even went over my Reconstruction DBQ, and I think that one also has a link to Reconstruction Notes. It's not a cheat sheet per se. I didn't get it in the cheat sheet format, but it is something that that you've got some potential notes there. All right, so going with that, let me just run in here and take a look at my Crisis of the Union. So let's go into the Compromise of 1850. All right. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. And occasionally, I'm also going to be shouting out to people who are following Marco Learning on Instagram. At Marco Learning, they've got such funny stuff. You want to make sure that you are following them as well, okay? So as far as this goes, let's go ahead and share what I've got here. So every once in a while, I will be shouting out to people who are following Marco Learning. So y'all be ready. Y'all be ready for that. Okay, so going with this, we're sharing. All right, so the Mexican-American War, okay, we want to make sure here when we contextualize the Mexican-American War, the Compromise of 1850, it's all part of this process of manifest destiny. And so 1845, Texas is annexed. Now, when Texas is annexed by joint resolution of Congress, that was a product of the election of 1844. Remember when James K. Polk ran on a ticket of annexing Texas. And so what we see here that there's disputed territory here that Texas says, this is Texas. Mexico says, no, that's Texas. Texas says, this is Texas. Well, when the United States annexes Texas, we take Texas on their terms. And so the Mexican-American War is really starting largely because of the annexation of Texas. And over in California, the Bear Flag Republic, basically that's started by some Anglo settlers. You see the Lone Star there on the California flag. The Lone Star shows that it began as a secessionist republic. And so we've got not only Texas, but more land that the U.S. wants. And so then war. So the Mexican-American War, understand that the cause was Texas, the causes, Texas annexation, manifest destiny as an underlying cause. Okay, you don't really have to know much about the course of the Mexican War, but you want to understand the Mexican cession in the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. And then there's the Gadsden Purchase. Okay, so the Gadsden Purchase, which Jimmy Fallon has a great video about that. And basically, when we see here that what are we going to do with the Mexican cession? I've got a Compromise of 1850 wrap that's available as well on my YouTube channel and my SoundCloud. Okay, so the Free Soilers, what we see happening here is what's going to happen with the Mexican cession. Now, remember that before the annexation of Texas, what typically happened was you had a slave state, a free state, a slave state, a free state. So a slave state be let in, a free state be let in. You go back to the Missouri Compromise. You've got this whole thing as far as, you know, you let in a slave state, you let in a free state. You let in a slave state, you let in a free state. And so now the Free Soilers are like, we don't want to do that anymore. Okay, so we're not into that. We're not going to consent to this kind of arrangement. And so the Free Soilers, they wanted to limit the expansion of slavery. Okay, they wanted to limit the expansion of slavery, not necessarily slavery in Alabama, for example. They're not talking about want to limit slavery in Alabama, but they want to limit the spread of slavery, kind of like Truman in the containment policy. Now, what we see here is abolitionists and free soilers. We've got two anti-slavery movements, okay? So what abolitionism and free soil have in common is that they're both anti-slavery movements, but at the same time, abolitionists want to get rid of slavery everywhere and now for moral reasons, whereas the free soilers want to stop the westward expansion of slavery for racist and economic reasons. And so what we have here, we see that they're both anti-slavery movements. The Wilmot Proviso: there will be no slavery in the Mexican Cession. That is never passed, okay? So basically, the Wilmot Proviso never passes. But on the other hand, what we want to understand is that the free soilers are really drawing a line in the sand here. There is never another slave state that is going to be let into the Union after the Wilmot Proviso is put out there. So after 1845, there's this turning point where we're not going to see slave states admitted into the Union anymore. Okay, so that's something to note there. And so then the Compromise of 1850. Henry Clay and Stephen Douglas, shake and bake. I was talking about the movie Talladega Nights, which Talladega Nights is that movie with Will Ferrell that is a NASCAR movie, and he's Ricky Bobby, and he's saying the grace at some point. They've got shake and bake, shake and bake. So with that, the Compromise of 1850, Stephen Douglas, shake and bake. And so with that, the context, again, is the Mexican-American War. So everything we want to think about some kind of context, okay? So the Mexican War, then you're thinking, what are we going to do with the Mexican Cession? Henry Clay and Stephen Douglas, okay, who we're going to hear about later. Stephen Douglas is the popular sovereignty guy. Lincoln Douglas debates, unsuccessful Democratic candidate for the president in 1860. So the Compromise of 1850 is divided into 5 provisions. First of all, admit California as a free state. This was very controversial with the South. There were a lot of Southern congressmen that were absolutely against this. Why not a free state and a slave state divided into 2? And note, we're going to admit California as a free state. Well, the South's going to need something you're going to have to draw some Southern congressmen out. So in order to draw some Southern congressmen out, especially from the upper South, states like Virginia, Kentucky, Maryland, Delaware, a stronger fugitive slave law, because people in the North were not tending to return fugitive slaves at that time. And so that was a controversy there. Now, the stronger fugitive slave law was passed. This ends up being the most controversial part of this, okay? So the stronger fugitive slave law ends up being the most controversial part. Remember, there was already the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793. And so then, what are we going to do with the Mexican Cession? So we're going to let the settlers decide what happens with the Mexican Cession, okay? So let's see. Let me ask Marco Learning for Instagram screenshots. Make sure to follow Marco Learning. I'm going to be doing some shout outs for new followers of Marco Learning's Instagram account. So popular sovereignty, we are letting the settlers decide what happens with the Mexican Cession. Okay, so as far as that goes, popular sovereignty. That way, you basically pass the buck here. And so going from there, Texas has some debts, and Texas also has a dispute with the federal government. So Texas has a dispute with the federal government, and Texas wants to basically, we've got our boundaries. They wanted to say that Santa Fe was part of Texas. And Texas, is like, Santa Fe's part of Texas. Federal government's like, no, it isn't. Texas like, yes, it is. Federal government says, here's $10 million to settle your war debts. Texas says, okay. And now Texas looks like Texas. And then finally, while we're at it, abolish the slave trade in Washington, D.C. Now, for the North, okay, admit California as a free state. For the South, I like breaking it up. So you think about, here's the North and then the South. So the North gets to admit California as a free state. For the South, a stronger fugitive slave law. In the New Mexico territory, popular sovereignty in the Mexican Cession, and then federal assumption of Texas debt / Texas is going to cede Western land. And then, so basically, here's an exchange between the North and the South. Here's how we're going to settle the New Mexico territory. And then finally, abolish the slave trade in Washington, D.C., but not slavery itself. Okay, the slave trade in Washington, D.C., but not slavery itself. All right. Okay. So Marco Learning is also on TikTok. You're welcome to follow at Marco Learning and at Tom Ritchie on TikTok. At some point, I'll shout out new TikTok followers. All right. So with that, we see here that, let's see, honestly, it's Joy, Adriana Romano, Emily E. Bertapelli, and Derek Aplon, Maddie Lynn, 21. We've got Kelvin. All right, let's see. We've got a few more. Followed Marco Learning, Cackerman 2, Sammy C21, Kaylee Young. We've got Perhaps Bot, May 757, Not Nate with a 0. James, are you just following again? James just keeps wanting to get shouted out. I know he was following them already. And so with that, we've got Leon P. Fleming, Brittany Lamps, Alyssa Persall, and Tecia 303, Rena Pinella. All right. And so with that, the agender cat. Okay, is that the same as genderless cat on Twitter? I wonder, because that's somebody who follows me. Shout out to Mr. Kalenda's class. Shout out to Mr. Kalenda's class. Also, APUSH_ha-has. That's one of my favorite. When we're thinking, yeah, this is APUSH. Let me plug this account too. This account, APUSH_ha-has. Okay, this is a really, like, they've got funny ha-has, great memes here. That's funny here. Okay, so the APUSH ha-has, we see there that so I'm going to go ahead and put on my story something from APUSH ha-has. All right, so that's something y'all will be invited to follow that account, because I'm sure they're going to have some really funny stuff, like some really funny post-exam memes. So that's something that you want to make sure that you're following. Okay, so APUSH ha-has, that's a great little account there. I'm going to go ahead and put that on my story so that y'all follow that. And with that, that's the Compromise of 1850, okay, which of course, is very divisive on some extents as well. Like Daniel Webster gave a very controversial speech, the 7th of March speech. It's very interesting here, because when we're thinking about, about point of view, okay, so I've got a new video where I go over my POV, hold it down handout, okay? So if you go and Google POV, hold it down, then you'll see here, this was a viral video. I cannot see, I'm legally blind, I can see barely. So I just did something here, POV, hold it down. That's on YouTube, but also I've got this, so you can go and look at that YouTube video where I'm talking about one of my favorite viral videos. And also I've got my, what I've got here is, if you go into the description, goes ahead and goes to that POV, hold it down. Okay, so when we're talking about this, you typically will think about, like, people typically say something that they're going to gain from. Okay, so Daniel Webster in the 7th of March speech, I find that that's one of those where Webster has got a really compelling POV, because he's getting up there and he's saying something that he's not benefiting from, and his section is also not benefiting from. Okay, so this is one where I tell you what, I did look, which Vicky, the last time I saw that the 19th century got any love on the APUSH exam was 2013. Okay, so I think we're, just personally, I think we're ripe for some love for the 19th century, the 1800s. So let me see what we've got here. That let's see, the 2005. Okay, so the one on Antebellum Compromise, there is an excerpt from the 7th of March speech. And so Daniel Webster gets up there in 1850. So we can see here, when we're thinking about our HIP analysis, POV plus, with the historical context, audience, purpose, we see here Senator Daniel Webster, March 7th, 1850. Now that's the Compromise of 1850 is our backdrop. Mr. President, I wish to speak today, not as a Northern man, but as an American. I wonder if he said it like that. And so he said, I will state one complaint of the South that there has been found at the North, among individuals and among the legislatures of the North a disinclination to perform fully their constitutional duties in regard to the return of persons bound to service who have escaped into the free states. In that respect, it is in my judgment that the South is right and the North is wrong. Now, here's the thing, that Daniel Webster was a senator from Massachusetts. He was a man of the North. And he says the South's right about this, the North is wrong. And Daniel Webster, you know, you think about what is his purpose. Daniel Webster is trying to make peace. Also, if we think about point of view, Daniel Webster was not a pro-slavery guy. Daniel Webster was anti-slavery, but he did believe, he was coming from the 1812 generation, from the old politics that kind of die out in the 1850s, is that what, and that's one thing, this generation of 1812 dying out is one, you know, little talked about aspect of the causes of the Civil War, you know, because you had Webster who said that he was personally against slavery, but he wasn't an abolitionist. He said in this speech, in a part that's not in here, where he says that the abolitionists were actually, in his judgment, doing more harm than good. Like they were well intentioned, but they're doing more harm than good, according to Daniel Webster. And so when you look at something like that, this is something where we could say his point of view, he's a lawyer. He's one of the preeminent lawyers of his generation. So he's looking at this through a lawyer's eyes as a matter of law. We can always also go into his purpose. He's trying to keep the peace here. He's trying to make peace between the North and the South and be an instrument of compromise. We could get into historical context. His constituents were livid over this. Daniel Webster, within months of giving the speech, resigned from the Senate because he was having such a hard time with his constituents. Okay, so that's something that you would note there. So Daniel Webster was actually, Nietzsche was a European philosopher who wrote about the will to power. That when Tom Ritchie says AP US history is the most important course you'll ever take in high school, maybe he's saying that because he teaches it and he's trying to boost enrollments. Now, when he says, hey, the Romulus APUSH review app is a handy little trivia app, maybe it's terrible, okay? And he's just trying to sell apps. Thanks, y'all got it up to number 12. All right, let's try to break that thing into the top 10. I'd love to see that at number 1. Romulus Euro was number 1. Now, see, when I say Romulus Euro was number 1 the other night, my purpose there is to pit students against, like, basically to activate your tribal sensibilities and get your competitive drive going. Surely APUSH, with so many more test takers, can do better than Euro. So he's trying to get people to compete over it. So you can see, why is it that someone's saying that they're saying, really humanizing the document. And again, there is a link to my DBQ page. If you want to see my writing format and really study it, go to my DBQ page, download those sample essays. You can see exactly what I'm doing to set those up. Also on Marco Learning's channel, okay? So I would recommend, some of y'all went to our thing on Marco Learning's channel earlier, and I'll just show you what's there. So the POV Hold It Down handout is available online, and I go into some examples. I go into basically what are some things here. Everybody's telling their own side of the story, okay? I'd recommend watching that video. So POP, Hold It Down. All right, so with that, special cases, retrospectives, foreign observers, and eyewitness. In a private letter, somebody may write something differently than if they do a public speech, posthumously published. They're trying to avoid punishment. And so with that, POV is more than attribution. You can't just say Daniel Webster was a senator from Massachusetts and, oh, he was a senator. That's the POV. His POV was a senator. That's not POV. You're not holding it down when you do that. Don't use the word bias or biased because it stops you from explaining yourself. Every source is biased. So how exactly is this biased? Okay, so with that, you want to understand how exactly is this biased. So that's something that is very important there. Okay, so going from there, we will we'll go into this. All right, so then make sure here that we get into examples of POV. So we go into APUSH. So the testimony from a supposed witch should be taken with caution, as those accused, okay, those accused of witchcraft often had to make a decision confessing with hopes of being forgiven and not confessing, which would which would lead to individuals not believing them. That's a little bit weighty there. Since this pamphlet was distributed by the Sons of Liberty, it likely exaggerated British abuses of powers in order to promote their cause. So it's not just like Sons of Liberty point of view, it likely did this for this reason. Okay, so when you see that, it likely did this for this reason. Okay, so that's something that is very important there. Okay, so we want to make a note of that. So going from there, we will get into now. We've got that. So let's go into this here. All right. So going from there, y'all got the handout, and let's go to Marco Learning's channel. So youtube.com/Marco Learning. And what you can do here, let's see, they're getting on up there. Now we've done some things there, and we want to note Marco Learning APUSH DBQ. Okay, so Marco Learning APUSH DBQ. And so what you're going to see there is we've got a thematic DBQ on the role of women in U.S. history. Okay, so you've got a thematic DBQ on the role of women. Let's see here, latest from Marco Learning. Let's see, so we've got another so we've got a thematic DBQ on women exam overview. That's AP government. Okay, so we've got a lot of things there on the channel that could help you out, where they're doing some sample responses and stuff like that. So I want you to know that that resource is there. And when we go to Instagram.com/Marco Learning, one thing, just I love these little videos that they post. It's like how to take a really short AP exam. That dog, he's just so funny. Like, all right, so as far as that goes, that's we're seeing there. They've just not only good information, but they've got really funny stuff there. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's go ahead and go to Crowdcast. We've taken something from Twitter. Now we'll go to the Crowdcast. Okay, so let's go to Crowdcast and see what our next question is over there. And also, our Fireside chat now has 15 participants. So we've got 15 more spots in tonight's Fireside chat. And thank you, Leon Savage, for for joining the Fireside chat. Katie says, "Yo, I'm about to get a 2, but hey, a girl can dream." LOL. So we got 15 spots left in the Fireside chat if anybody wants some. All right, so let's go into the Crowdcast, take something here. And what will we discuss in the breakfast broadcast? It's going to be responsive. The breakfast broadcast is going to have like a freemium element. So there's going to be something where I will be on, on Crowdcast, basically on a different Crowdcast than that, where it'll be like it'll be on YouTube, but I'm going to be giving priority to people who come into the front row seats. Y'all will see that tomorrow. It'll be kind of a freemium thing, but it will be, streaming everywhere at 10 a.m. and it will be responsive to the people who are getting front row seats. So it'll be responsive to the market. All right. So as far as that goes, what I would say, Sarah, we have no way of knowing what out of 10 will be what score, but I've been saying a 6 is would be a safe 3. A 5 is likely going to be a 3, but a 6 is going to be a safe 3. I would say an 8 would be a safe 4, even though, a 7 is likely going to be a 4. An 8 or a 9 could be, an 8 or a 9 could be, but at the same time, could be a 5. A 9, I think, would be like pretty much like a given that we're going to see that. So with that, going from there, we'll go ahead and say that a 6, an 8, and a 9 would be safe. A 5, a 7, an 8 or a 9. I don't know. And I think that a lot of people with 9s and 10s are actually going to be people with extra time, because people with extra time have such an unfair advantage, on this exam. Like, where it's just like, my goodness, they've got like 2 times the amount of time, and so they've got time to do things that y'all may not have time to do. So, so basically, APUSH DBQ, guide 2020. So when I Google this, AP Oh, wow. So APUSH DBQ Guide 2020. I tell you what, thank y'all for y'all's support, because what we're seeing here, some people have extra time accommodations. I tell you what, this makes me so happy, and I would not be able to do this without y'all's support. Okay. So with that, we've got the 2020 APUSH DBQ Supreme Leader, and then we got live APUSH review. That's, y'all are really doing. I mean, I just put APUSH DBQ Guide, and we're 3 for 3. Thank y'all so much there. And so then College Board, let's see, Marco Learning. Okay, so practice guide for the new DBQ. Now, basically what we're doing here is we're prioritizing points. As far as the 10-point strategy, unless you have gotten 10 points multiple times in practice in 45 minutes or less, don't try it, Anakin. I have the high ground. My voice is kind of giving out, but I would go for the 8-point strategy. And what I do here, one recommendation that I have is write your thesis, do your potty paragraphs. I would say with 3 documents, not 2, because you need insurance. 3 documents, and then outside evidence 1 and 2, POV plus 1 and 2. Now, for people who know a lot of history, historical context tends to work well. For people who don't know as much outside history, purpose analysis seems to be the path of least resistance. And what I recommend is first write your thesis, then write your body paragraphs, and then after that, you've got contextualization. Okay, so I would say you go back and do your contextualization, because it will save time. Okay, so going from there, we've got this here, and that's an 8-point strategy, which I think leads to a solid 4, maybe even a 5 if they see that most of the people that got 9s and 10s are people with extra time. Then that's going to be something that could be problematic. But my thing, I think what is manageable in the time limit is to use 3 documents, and then your outside evidence, your POV plus. I wouldn't try to get the 4-document point or the complex understanding point unless you have already gotten these points multiple times under timed conditions, controlled time conditions. Because the thing is, this is very, very difficult to get in 45 minutes. Most people aren't going to be able to do it. And when you try to get 10, you can end up getting less than you would have got. Maybe you try to get 10 and you end up getting 6 of them. Whereas, if you tried for 8, you're more likely to be able to get 8. So that's something that is, I think, important to note here. So that's one thing that this guide, so if you search for, on Google, and there may be a direct link here, but APUSH DBQ Guide 2020. All right. And so with that, 16. All right, we got 16 here, and it better be worth it. Emmeline says it better be worth it. Ha ha. Yeah, nobody's ever asked me for a refund for a premium session. That has never happened before. All right, so going here, let's talk about this, Angela, talking about the Civil War. I think the Civil War is a very important topic, and a topic that people seem to want to argue about more than actually learn about. Let me see what I can do about my lighting situation here. I'm just feeling very, very feeling very shiny here. Let's see, and now it just seems dark. I'm going to turn an overhead light on and see what happens there. Let's get it a little lighter in here. Just fix my lighting a little bit. The natural light's gone. The sun went down, so that's why we're seeing a little bit of a different situation here. So with that, I'm thinking in terms, the upvotes like changed drastically here. So now I'm being asked, I was about to go into the Civil War. Okay, so yeah, so Angela, who's been coming to a lot of sessions lately. So the Civil War is something that, people like to argue. It was about states' rights. No, it was about slavery. No, it was about states' rights. And it's like, look, interpretation of history is subjective. Okay, the thesis statement is subjective. I was saying in an earlier broadcast today, I've got these 2 books on Reconstruction. One, Reconstruction, America's Unfinished Revolution by Eric Foner, who's a very, respected historian, probably the preeminent historian of Reconstruction that's alive today. And then I've got this book by Philip Lee, Southern Reconstruction. He sent this to me to review, and I actually had a conversation with him via Zoom before that was cool. You know, it was like before that was cool. I was talking to Phil on Zoom. And one thing is that basically, you know, with Fauner's work, it's very, you know, his interpretation of Reconstruction is very heavily based on race. Whereas, you know, when you look at, you know, Lee's work, he is basing it more on economics. Now, you can even see in the marketing here where you've got, you know, these freedmen that are sitting there in this destroyed Confederate city. Now, in this book, you see the front and the back. There is this white farmer, and then there is a black gentleman on the back working in a sawmill. And so you see here where his interpretation is much more economic, whereas the interpretation in this book is much more racial. They both make valid points. They both use source material. They both have done research. So what we want to think here that that when we go into that, this is something that you want to understand, that when people say, you know, that slavery was a cause of the Civil War, they're right. When people say states' rights was a cause of the Civil War, they're right. When people say that economic differences between the North and the South were a cause of the Civil War, they're right, to the point where they can defend it. All three of those are defensible. Yes, and those of you in the chat, yeah, writing a conclusion, unnecessary. Unnecessary to write a conclusion. So that's something, yeah, y'all want to note that a conclusion is unnecessary. You only need to restate your thesis at the end. So I wonder if it's the black shirt that's making my face shine so much. My face looks shiny. So the thing is, what we want to understand is that when you're thinking about evaluating the most important causes or effects, okay, of something like the American Civil War, what you want to do here is you've got to choose. Okay, so is your argument, now I'm just blurry, but okay, so what is your argument going to be? So when you're thinking about this, what can you back up more with evidence? Okay, so when you're thinking about that, people can make an argument, you know, where you would say that, you know, slavery and states' rights, they're both leading to the Civil War because slavery was a divisive issue. There were a lot of divisions over ideological divisions over the power of the central government. What is the proper relationship between the central government and the states? And what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to say that both of these have validity, but at the same time, this one I believe is more valid. Okay, so yeah, one thing that I'm noting here that, yeah, throw out one or two confusing documents, and that way you're not sitting there confusing yourself, and it saves time. Okay, time is a factor here. And so if you use the 3-document strategy, or if you use 4, but 3 or 4 documents, if it's easy to use 4, then do it. And Vanessa's here from Orlando. Great to see you, Vanessa. You know, I met Vanessa at the Animal Kingdom at Disney World. Our kids played together a couple years ago. So glad to see Miss Elvers and her students here. Best of luck to y'all. And so with that, you know, how did the Civil War impact that? So basically, when you think about the Civil War, after the Civil War, you've got the 13th Amendment, which freed slaves. And then you've got the 14th Amendment, which basically said that no state shall, okay, no state shall infringe on the privileges and immunities of citizens without due process of law. And that all citizens of the United States, everybody born in the United States subject to the laws as a citizen. And that every state and the United States have to give equal protection of laws to all citizens. So the thing is that the Civil War not only, you know, ended slavery, but it did also decisively shift the balance of power between the federal government and state governments, okay, in favor of the federal government. Abraham Lincoln in the Gettysburg Address, he referred to the United States repeatedly in the Gettysburg Address as a nation, you know, basically, you know, that we are fighting this war so that the nation might live. Now, you don't see that from the founding fathers. You know, Jefferson would not have called the United States, I think, a nation. Now, somebody says outlines waste time. Are people really saying, like, go and start writing your essay without planning it? You know, I would say that is a mistake. I think that'd be a mistake. I think you should be intentionally grouping the documents before you start writing. But what do I know? I've only been teaching this class for, you know, over a decade. So with that, I would say here, yeah, that when it comes down to it, when you plan, you're going to write your essay faster. Okay. When you actually say that body paragraph 1, this is the point I'm going to make. I'm going to use these two documents. I'm going to do historical context on this, and I'm going to use this as my outside evidence. Paragraph 2, I'm going to make this as my point. I'm going to use these two documents. I'm going to go into purpose for document 4, and then I'm going to use this as my outside evidence. Then you start typing. You don't have to think and write. Okay. So as far as that kind of stuff here, that we will, we'll see. Now, if we do, we're having a few bruh moments in the chat here, but I would not be advising people to write a DBQ without planning it out, without organizing it. So and see teachers here. Okay, so here's the thing that when we think about Vanessa here is a teacher. So you've got POV teacher. Okay, so that's something I think that is very important. Then we've got another teacher, Miss Skinner here is saying that this is something that is important to actually plan out your essay, to annotate the documents. Don't just go into this thing blind. All right. Can I explain more about Jacksonian democracy? Now, basically, what we know is Jacksonian democracy is this trend toward universal white male suffrage. Remember that in the early republic, we did not see universal white male suffrage, and so voting was tied to property. And as people started moving across the Appalachian Mountains and going west, then these new states out in the West started submitting constitutions that said every white man in the state can vote, because people go out west not because they have money, they're out there in search of opportunity, and that starts to go east. Same thing that you see with women's suffrage. And of course, when you look at maps about, the legalization of marijuana, it's the same thing. Things tend to go from west to east. And so from there, I just have a note card, the documents. Okay, y'all got some interesting stuff there. So Jacksonian democracy is basically, this is this trend toward universal white male suffrage. Now, the other thing that we want to note here, though, is that Jacksonian democracy is something that, is only, it's basically for white guys, but at the same time, it causes, okay, what this causes is, it causes antebellum reform movements. You see abolitionism and, in women's rights. So, when you start to say, like, the original Declaration of Independence said all men are created equal, but, all men were not really equal in the political community. So as far as that goes, you see here that, they're not really equal. So once all white men are being treated equal, then other groups of people are like, why aren't we equal as well? So when you think about the consequences, the effects of Jacksonian democracy, you're looking at, a more powerful presidency. Popular campaigning, that you start to see that presidents really become, more in tune with the people, and they're campaigning on issues people care about. 1844 election is a great example where James K. Polk campaigns on the annexation of Texas, because that's what the majority of people wanted to hear. And so that, you've got a more powerful presidency, popular campaigning, manifest destiny. The government starts acting on popular impulses there, and then antebellum reform movements. And what you want to understand, I think what's important is to understand the big causes and effects. So like the American Revolution, taxation, trade, troops, tyranny. Okay, and also tradition. If you think about the Magna Carta, no taxation without representation. So I think about all these T's, and then everything kind of fits into one of those things, right? So we're thinking about the overall causes, and you're trying to fit those documents into an overall cause, and make those documents go along with what you, with what you want to say. Okay, so as far as that goes, make sure that you're, that you're getting involved, there. All right, so going with that, we see here that, let's see if we've got any new Instagram followers or anything like that. So going from there, looks like, y'all must be following me here, right? Okay, so going from that, let's see, APUSH ha-has is it got, I liked their post. That's right. Oh, there we go. All right. Lauren Bridges from Alabama, Roll Tide, told me that she's ready for the fireside chat. Okay. We've got 11 spots left in tonight's fireside chat. Okay, can we discuss the Gilded Age? Okay, so the Gilded Age is what we refer to as this period after the Civil War. It is a period where we start to see that, we start to see the industrialization of the United States hits a whole new level. Okay, the industrial of the United States hits a whole new level. And what we're seeing there is, basically the American system. Remember, in the antebellum period, the American system, Henry Clay, National Bank, internal improvements, and protective tariff. National Bank, internal improvements, protective tariff. Now, the Democratic Party, which was the majority party in the antebellum period, was largely against those things. So whenever we get there, and we're thinking about this, whenever we get to the Gilded Age, finally the Republicans take over and they want to implement, they want to implement the American system. Finally. Now, the national bank's not going to come around till the progressive era, but, when you look at the Transcontinental Railroad, the Gilded Age, what's important to note is that the Gilded Age is really going to start during the Civil War. As soon as the Southern states secede and they leave Congress, Congress passes the Morrill Tariff, Morrill. And the Morrill Tariff jacked up tariff rates in order to protect Northern industry. Okay, so in order to protect Northern industry, gosh, that's so weird looking at the side of my head and seeing that. But I don't know how Kim Jong-un does, but it does feel kind of good, like to have all that hair off my ears. So Kim Jong, I had that quarantine hair, and now it's like not around my ears. So as far as that goes, the Gilded Age, with the Morrill Tariff and the Pacific Railway Act. Okay, so the Pacific Railway Act is basically the government subsidizing the construction of a transcontinental railroad, the Pacific Railway Act. So we see here where we see this National Bank, internal improvements, protective tariff, NIP, and so internal improvements, that's the Transcontinental Railroad. Jackson, the Maysville Road. Jackson's like, that road's in one state. I'm not paying for that mess. And so then, Lincoln signs the Pacific Railroad Act. And that starts the construction after the Civil War of the Transcontinental Railroad to get this national economy going, to tie California and Oregon to the rest of the country. And so the Gilded Age is this time. A misunderstanding that a lot of people have about the Gilded Age is that the government was laissez-faire. Okay, the government was not laissez-faire during the Gilded Age. Now, maybe they were in the sense that they didn't regulate business, okay? But a true laissez-faire government, it's not just a lack of regulation, but it's also a lack of assistance, okay? So a lack of assistance, because if government is assisting business, that's not laissez-faire. A protective tariff is not laissez-faire, okay? There's just a protective tariff is not laissez-faire. So that's what we want to note there, that when we think about the protective tariff, when we think about the Pacific Railroad Act, what we're thinking about is, that's a little bit different than the government just staying out of it. True laissez-faire was Andrew Jackson. Okay, when you think about Andrew Jackson, that was more of a true laissez-faire that you would see there, when Jackson's like, look, the government should just stay out of the economy. I'm against the national bank. We need a moderate tariff, and so there you go. Now, remember, upvote, asking people to upvote your questions is typically going to be in poor taste, okay? Because we want questions to be upvoted based on upvoting. Now, ladies and gentlemen, if you're in YouTube and you want to ask questions, you want to upvote, you want to participate in polls, go to crowdcast.io/Tom Ritchie, where you can join the Crowdcast session, and you can also join the Fireside chat if you want. We've still got 11 spots for the actually 10 spots. Somebody just took another one. All right, so this better not be a bruh moment. So we see here that now, of course, at the same time, so we've got 10 left. So do you think the prompt will be compiled? Okay, what we learned from AP Euro. Okay, now this is something. Wait, did I see Mr. Major Redcoat? My goodness, Lucas, I might have to kick you out of here. The Redcoats are coming, right? And so with that, what I'm seeing here, this is what we learned from AP Euro. that there were 3 different prompts. Now, some of the identical prompts had different documents. So the College Board is not throwing like one prompt out there that's the same for everybody. And all of the prompts were accessible, okay? And it was the same I heard for AP Government. The AP Government prompts tended to be pretty straightforward. So with that, you know, some of the prompts, you know, all of the prompts were pretty accessible. Like from what we've heard, and we can talk about at this point, is what we've been told: the Reformation, Napoleon, and the Enlightenment are the 3, and the French Revolution maybe, or something like that. But basically, French Revolution, Napoleon, the Enlightenment, and the Reformation. And they were all pretty straightforward. So, and then they didn't go past 1850. So what I'm expecting here is, no, I don't think we're going to see a century-long DBQ. The Euro DBQs were just like they would be at any other time. So there wasn't really a curveball thrown. So what I'm going to think here is you're probably going to see a period from between like 30 to 40 years, and you're going to be evaluating something. So that's what the ones that I've written that are on my DBQ page. Remember to go to my APUSH DBQ page, take a look at that. And remember also that I've got plenty of stuff on my channel for y'all to look at as well. So with that, we've got some videos on the DBQ. Y'all definitely want to watch my new DBQ video that's out there. So I want to make sure that y'all know that's out there. Get a quick primer. Show that video some love. A lot of people have shown it some love, and I'm really happy about that. And so is Gadir Matar watching right now? I don't know. And good luck to you. She commented on my new video. If anybody, you know what, I may do some shout outs for people who comment on my new video on the APUSH DBQ. Okay, so I've got a new video. Gosh, I'm all washed out there, but new video on the APUSH DBQ, 2020 APUSH DBQ. Go and comment on that video, give it a like. I'll do some shout outs. Okay. So with that, we'll make sure that, you know, that we get, you know, plenty of shout out opportunities. So yeah, I think that the DBQ is going to be just like any other time, but I don't think that we're going to see a 20th century emphasis, because it would bring up issues of equity. I certainly will film, if there are 20th century prompts like that are past like World War I will get out there and I will be ranting and raving. So y'all take a look. If y'all see that, y'all take a look at my rant video. All right. So a lot of people like Jackson. So we've got that. And, you know, a lot of people like Jackson. I think we've already kind of covered Jackson enough for tonight. And so can we review Henry Clay's system? I'm kind of lost. Henry Clay's American system, again, NIP, National Bank, Internal Improvements, Protective Tariff. Now, remember Clay's goal, this comes out of the War of 1812. So if you're a little bit lost, let's actually pull something up here and we will get into the specific context here, okay? So we want, you know, when you can contextualize things, I think that makes things a little bit easier to understand. So let's contextualize Henry Clay's American system and put it into, you know, just put it into context, okay? So when we think about this, Henry Clay was a war hawk. He was one of those people who had advocated for the War of 1812. And so the War of 1812, it ended well, you know, with Jackson and the Battle of New Orleans. But at the same time, when we look here, that Henry Clay's American system, now this is the Jeffersonian economic model. Remember how Jefferson wrote that we don't want manufacturing over here at all. Why manufacture when Europe can build stuff for us in those dirty factories? They can ship it here and we can send our cash crops over there. So basically raw materials, finished goods that basically like the colonies, except nobody's telling us who to trade with. And so Jefferson's economic model was basically, his view of the United States was that the United States needs to continue to be an agrarian republic. And that is the only way that a Republican form of government can flourish. Because remember that what you see in Europe, you see all of these cities and they don't have Republican governments. The French tried a Republican government and that failed pretty quickly. Okay, so Jefferson comes to the conclusion like, we need farmland. We need to farm because people who farm, they're self-sufficient and they're virtuous. And so Jefferson believed that, you know, those who labor in the earth are the chosen people of God, if he ever had a chosen people. And so the War of 1812, it makes some people like Henry Clay wonder, do we really want an economic system that relies on trade with Europe. So Henry Clay, like when he called this the American system, NIP, National Bank Internal Improvements Protective Tariff, when he called this the American system, he said that the alternative to the American system is the foreign system. Okay, so he said you either want the American system or you want the foreign system. And so with that, National Bank, Internal Improvements, and Protective Tariff. Now, the National Bank was rechartered after the War of 1812, and then, of course, Jackson killed it in the 1830s, killed it pretty hard. Internal improvements, infrastructure. The federal government should pay for roads, bridges, canals, and then a protective tariff to support domestic manufacturing. If that sounds Hamiltonian, there's a reason for that, okay, that it sounds Hamiltonian. And so as far as that, the goals, self-sufficiency, internal trade, and the development of Western lands. That's what Clay wants to do. And basically that you have an economy in North America, in the United States that doesn't need to trade with other countries. We get an internal trade going on with the states, which is kind of like if you think about what was happening in the German Confederation at that time. Those of you who take an AP Euro, the Zollverein, okay, the Zollverein was something that, when you look at the Zollverein, this was a very similar thing that the German states are trading, getting rid of all trade barriers with each other. Okay, so with that, that's basically Henry Clay's American system. And so that's something that I think, remember, NIP, National Bank Internal Improvements Protective Tariff. I would say PIN, but remember, PIN could be PEN, and the other combination of letters don't make any sense. So with that, we are going with that. Okay, so with that. All right, let me check and see if we've got any new, any new Instagram followers. All right, so with that, we've got. All right. So going from there. All right, let's take a, let's take a look. Take a look here. All right, so going with that. Okay, so don't know if we've got any new follow. Okay, I guess y'all are already following me. I think that's great. That's less shout outs I have to do. Poor Ball 18. Let's see if we've got any recent Twitter followers. Okay, so let's see. So we've got, let's see on Twitter, Sam Merica, Lewis at war with El Fuego, Eno, Adriana, Samantha, Saul Paul. Okay, she's Saul Paul. Well, page 50 of Capital Something. Serena, thank you for let's see, Serena Whitley is following me on Twitter here. And yeah, so as far as that goes, and let's see what we've got here. And so Lexi and Isabella, thank y'all so much for the recent Twitter followers. All right, so with that, we will go ahead and go to the next question. All right, so going from that, how can we, okay, so here's the thing. When you're dealing with, and let the teachers in the crowdcast chime in here. I think when I get questions about your POV plus, your HIP analysis, y'all ask, how can I make sure that that supports the argument? When I'm reading an essay, I don't tend to when I'm looking at analysis of a document, I'm much more concerned in theory. Wait, is that Talia is here too? Talia is here in the APUSH chat. Oh my goodness. Hey, Talia. She hadn't had enough with AP Euro. Let's see. Macy Parker, there's a shout out for you. But highest of high keys, Talia is in the building. All right. So did we just become best friends? All right. Velociraptor. All right. So with that, okay. So HIP analysis, I'm looking to see, did they analyze the document well? When I'm looking at the analysis, somebody did a super chat. Okay, so I need to let me know when y'all see a super chat. Is there there's a pog in the chat somewhere? Did I miss a super chat? Okay, I must have missed. Okay, I don't know what happened. Did somebody say RIP Harambe in the chat? Okay, if somebody okay, I am so sorry if I missed a big super chat. I am so sorry about that. But yeah, I don't see. I'm not able to see what we've got here. So yeah, I don't know. Somebody did a super chat. Thank you. But I will try to do what I can here. I will try to do what I can in those terms. So when we think about that, let me see what I've got here from the teachers. It does get kind of hectic. Y'all can see why I do the fireside chat later on. So Pog in the chat, y'all. All right. So with that, teachers, what are y'all thinking? That when I'm looking at that, now one thing that you could note is sometimes you can manipulate the document with your POV plus, okay? But at the same time, I'm really trying to see if you analyze that document from point of view, context, audience, and purpose. I don't really have this like exact measuring stick where I'm like, okay, that didn't support the argument. Okay, so that's something I don't see the teachers going in here and letting me know what they're thinking. But that's the thing that, like, when it comes down to it, you typically want to, you should understand that. I mean, that's something that's going to come naturally to you. But the main thing I would think about with your POV plus is to go in there. Okay, is to go in there and analyze that document to the best of your ability to give it more body. Okay, so going from that, will I be creating more cheat sheets? I will look into that. I may decide to stay up, pull an all-nighter, make some more cheat sheets. So Vicky, do you want to come online for a little bit? I've actually never had the pleasure of talking to you. So with that, let me just invite her. She doesn't have to come in, but she wants to. She's more than welcome to. So yeah, if you're noting that the purpose of this speech was to this, and you should be kind of naturally supporting your argument, but I don't want you to get to the, to think about this in terms of like, did that support my argument? Did that not? You'll kind of know if like this went against my argument. But at the same time, the main thing I'm looking for when I read this, what I'm looking for is, what? That person analyzed the document. Check. That in practicality, that's what that is. Just like the complex understanding point. It says, oh, complex understanding be earned for this. In practice, it's a point that readers give out for an especially brilliant essay. So there are some ways, around that. But as far as that goes, that, you could say that, oh, we've got 4,000 in the crowdcast, and I might need to run in here and change I may need to get rid of the maximum number of, okay, so I actually don't have the seats limited right now. So the seats are not limited. I thought it was limited at 4,000. So yeah, we've got 4,000 people have signed up for this crowdcast Corona class, which is excellent. Okay, so going with that, we see here, Caitlin is counting on me. Caitlin, you must be number 21. We got 9 spots left in the in the thing here. So we've got here, oh, my friend JB Wells. Okay, important to recognize why the founders restricted voting originally to landowners. They tried to emulate the early republic model, pre-Marian reform of tiered citizenship. Skin in the game equals a vote. They get bad press today for their decisions. There was their reason.
I think
you will make a lot of sense. You always make a lot of sense. Miss Felmus's class, thank y'all so much. But yeah, my friend JB Weld is noting that, there are reasons. Like, you think about it, like personally, I don't understand why people who don't own property, like, vote on property taxes. That's never made sense to me. Like somebody would vote to tax someone else's property. All right, it looks like Vicky is joining us here. Hey, Vicky.
I can't hear.
Oh, she can't hear me. Okay, well, she can't hear. Okay, well, still, it was great. She's having a little trouble with her audio and her lighting. But is there anything, Vicky, let's see. Anything you want to say to the kids? Okay, so while she's here, let's see if there's anything she wants to say to the kids while she's here. All right, I don't know if she's looking at the chat there, but thank you, thank you, Vicky, for stopping by, and yeah, so we'll try to get her maybe on some time when she, yeah. So if I had, so with that, pressing F to pay respects. Okay, pressing F to pay respects. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's go on to our next question. Can we briefly review American imperialism? Okay, so American imperialism is really 1898 is a big year. I want you to all write down. You should have. This isn't like Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. Y'all should have out a notebook and be writing stuff down. That 1898 is a big year, okay? That is the year of the Spanish-American War, and also the year that the United States annexes Hawaii. Okay, so the Spanish-American War and the annexation of Hawaii. And so those are two things that are basically, it's the turning point where we start to see that the United States is becoming an imperial power. Thank you, Abby Rice, for the follow. Charles Naj Doctor, is that it at the end there? Joe _ RO or R0 or whatever that was, _ period, Hannah period _ started following me. All right, thanks for that, Hannah. AHS 21. And so thanks for the follow there. And so then we get Jensen Smin. We've got Cami Wah, Talia Sorensen. Let's see, Elizabeth Link, Orrin Andrew Wenzel, Clara Davis, period _ period. Brian Sweeney. I'm certainly glad that I got my Instagram like back in 2011 when y'all were like, you know, basically toddlers. M. Anderson, Brianna Peters, Tyser Aiden, Ryan FZN3, Michelle Rimbert, and CSay01, Brian Sweeney. Thank y'all so much for the support there. Thank y'all so much for the support. All right, so American Imperialism, 1898. Now, one thing that I'm really curious about. Okay, one thing that I am very, very curious about is how people are going to look at this coronavirus panic later on, because you know now people have different views on this, but what was the cause of the Spanish-American War? Like, why did the United States get into war with Spain? Why did the United States get into war with Spain? Not the Pure Food and Drug Act. All right. Oh, my goodness. Okay, this one here. Let's see. Audie, you've been warned. You've been warned. Okay, so as far as that stuff, if we think about this, that, yeah, I would print things that you can. Now, when we think about the Spanish-American War, Cuba, but also yellow journalism, Colin. So you notice, now here's another thing. Vietnam's not on the exam, but basically public opinion turned against the Vietnam War when the media just kept like showing all of these coffins coming in. People see these coffins coming in and they think, okay, people are dying out there, coffin after coffin. And so with the Spanish-American War, basically the media, like, well, pun intended, they blew up. Okay, the Maine blows up and they come up with this huge conspiracy theory. Exactly. Blame the Maine on Spain. Spain did it. Do y'all notice how, like, I mean, and I'm you know, just kind of putting myself out there. If y'all don't like it, send it right back. But we keep getting numbers, coronavirus numbers. Okay, so it's just the numbers thrown out there. I got a notification on my computer. Death toll just climbed above 300,000. And, you know, global death toll, 300,000. Number of people in the world, 7 billion. Okay, now they don't put that. They don't say 300,000 out of 7 billion died of the coronavirus. They just say 300,000, 300,000, 300,000. And so they say death toll, death toll, death toll. And they don't, you notice that they never tell us, like, they never tell us what are the ages. Like, we never see any demographic information or anything like that. And so the media, here's the thing, that like when it comes down to it, like our economy is about, I mean, y'all are going to have to inherit this. Like your college years and early 20s could be spent in an economic depression because of some of the decisions that are being made here. So, you know, it's something everybody needs to think about. And you know, now I could be wrong about this. You know, I'm getting into something that's like, you know, okay. And of course, I've got my baby Yoda mask over there. I keep my social distance. You know, basically I'm following the laws. But at the same time, you know, I'm thinking when we start thinking about this, it's like, you know, that, you know, what's going on here. But we do, when we look back, this is all because they shot Harambe. But when we look back, we look at the war with Spain, where it's like yellow journalism, like the media stirred everything up. You look at the Vietnam War with those coffins. Notice that the media doesn't show us coffins coming in anymore. So that's something that they don't see. But with that, you know, people still want, you know, the Lusitania. That was something that the Americans on board that ship, the media didn't say like, hey, the Americans on board with that ship. Exactly. Harambe would have stopped that virus. I tell you what, I think it's about time. I think tomorrow morning I'll be posting Harambe because that's something that we definitely, every AP season, I want to think about that. But here's the thing. The Lusitania was sunk, but the Germans put a sign out and said, everybody getting on the ship needs to be aware that, okay, everybody getting on this ship needs to be aware that we are at war, like Germany and its allies are at war with Britain and its allies. And so when we look at Germany and its allies and Britain and its allies, then we see here that they're saying, look, you're getting on this ship at your own risk. And also the Lusitania was carrying arms. But yeah, there was a lot of media hype that almost drew us into World War I. Now, it wasn't until later with the Zimmerman note where you've got more hype, okay? So it's like people make decisions. You know, when you think about this, it's like people make decisions based on what's being put out there, okay? So it's like we constantly have these death toll numbers going in front of us. And, you know, so that's the thing, that when you're looking at, you know, the history of the United States, you know, how are people going to look at this, you know, and that it's going to be very interesting thinking about, you know, how are people going to say we overreacted or we did it right? You know, who knows? Who knows? I mean, we don't have enough perspectives here, you know, to really put that together. And so with that, can we review American imperialism? That imperialism, now one thing I want to note too, is that as a result of the Spanish-American War, the United States gets Guam, the Philippines, and in Puerto Rico. So basically the United States is building an empire. Now, there was the Anti-Imperialist League. You had Andrew Carnegie, Mark Twain, William Jennings Bryan, William Graham Sumner, who was a professor at Yale. And what you see here is, you know, this, you know, basically this Anti-Imperialist League, where a lot of Americans are seriously concerned. Mark Twain said at the Philippines, why don't we use a different flag than the American flag? Why don't we, so that we don't dishonor our flag, why don't we turn the white stripes black and put a skull and crossbones up there? Because when you look at what happened in the Philippines, that what is the United States about? And that's the thing that, you know, we have to think about, like, what is the United States about? What is the ideal that we're dedicated to? And, you know, everybody needs to think about that. And I think, you know, you've taken AP US history. What are y'all going to say? Like, tell me in the chat. What does it mean to be an American? I mean, and that's not something for me to determine for you. That's not something for anybody to determine for you. But having taken APUSH, what is the value, like the greatest value that Americans stand for? Okay. So yeah, just, you know, y'all let me know. Let me know. Let me go over to the YouTube chat and let me see here. Like, what is it that America stands for? What is the value that makes the United States the United States? What is the most important thing that we have to offer? I'm trying to get caught up in the YouTube chat, and I don't know. It's not wanting me to catch up here. So with that, let's not campaign for candidates I can't read this. Chat's going so fast, probably too fast for me to moderate it. But if we start thinking about this, you know, thinking about, like, what is it? So opportunity, controversy. Yeah, America has become about controversy. You know, rights. Okay, so the U.S. stands for Harambe. There we go. Okay, R.I.P. Harambe. All right, so you know, so as far as that goes, Angie, that we've got a pong in the chat right there. So with that, if you think about this, that, you know, opportunity, capitalism, freedom, controversy, Teddy Roosevelt. Okay, so McDonald's everywhere. Okay, so there are things that you think about, but, you know, if America stands for freedom and opportunity, okay, then why are we going into the Philippines? Like, basically Spain gives us the Philippines, and Spain was, you know, Spain is like, here you go. And Spain had been fighting a war against Filipino rebels who wanted their independence. And what does the United States do? The United States goes in the Philippines and says, hey, y'all aren't white. Y'all aren't advanced like we are. You're not ready to have an independent country. And so they go to the Philippines and they go over there and shoot them. They go over there and shoot people who are trying to be free. Okay. And so when we think about this, that if the United States is about freedom, then why are we going over to another place and we're shooting people who want to be free? That if we give up the idea of freedom, then what are we? That's what William Graham Sumner, okay, that's what William Graham Sumner said, is that he said that basically he wrote this essay, he delivered this address. It was called The Conquest of the United States by Spain. He almost lost his position at Yale because of it, because this was a time when to be anti-war, you know, was not something that was looked well upon. But he had the courage to stand up when other people weren't standing up and say, look, there is something distinctly un-American about going to another country and shooting people who are trying to be free. And that is the, he says that if we give up the Constitution and freedom, then what are we? And that's why he titles this speech I would say William Graham Sumner, definitely the better Sumner. But William Graham Sumner is is saying, in the speech, the conquest of the United States by Spain, that he's using this irony here that yes, the United States won militarily, but we lost in terms of values, that we basically become what Spain was, and Spain has conquered us. Spain has conquered us in a way that that a victory in a war could not. And so that is the that's the thing that you see here with American imperialism, that there's just something about imperialism that is that is just distinctly un-American. William Jennings Bryan also was a member of the Anti-Imperialist League. And so that's something to note here, that I just don't, I don't necessarily, and that's the thing, that you see that William Jennings Bryan was committed to neutrality, was committed to Washington's foreign policy, was committed to not going places and shooting people. And because that was seen as something that is just not an American thing to do. All right, you're trying to cram. Is it controversial to say that we shouldn't go to other countries and shoot people who are trying to be free? If that is controversial, I'll be controversial if that's controversial. So can we discuss? But yeah, when you get me on anti-imperialism, that is, that's one of those things I can get on a kick. And the thing is, it's just, look, I'm gonna get on a kick once in a while. I'm dressed like a dictator talking about freedom. Where's the irony in that? Okay, so going with that, can you discuss the cause of the Great Depression and its effects? Okay, you don't want it to be on the test. So as long as we mention it, at least, maybe it won't be on the test. In the Bill of Rights Institute, if y'all go to the Bill of Rights Institute YouTube channel, I've done several review sessions with them. And, the one tonight, I shared some things that I had on the Great Depression and the New Deal. Okay, so actually let me go ahead, and I'm going to put this in the Crowdcast. Those of y'all who are live right now in Crowdcast, I'm going to make these notes available to y'all. Okay, so if you want these notes I'm making available, come and join us in the Crowdcast, crowdcast.io/Tom Ritchie. Okay, so with that, okay, so I'm going to go ahead and put in the Crowdcast chat. We're going to give y'all the Great Depression and the New Deal. Okay, Great Depression being Hoover's Depression, and then we'll go from there to the New Deal. All right, so with that, let me go ahead and Great Depression. And then we've got a New Deal Google Doc. Now, these are not in cheat sheet format, but they are, I think something that is useful. Okay, it looks like those of you in the Crowdcast room have got that. And then let me go ahead and also give you the New Deal Corona class notes. And y'all are welcome to use these. You're welcome to copy and paste. These are just some Google documents that I put together during my Corona class. So the New Deal. Okay, so with that, I'm not really so the thing is, I'm not going to spend a lot of time talking about the Depression and World War II, because I'm really feeling like they're not going to be on there. And if I'm wrong, then the College Board is wrong, okay? Because the College Board really, and I think that they understand that. They understand that there will be a negative backlash. Let's see. Let me just see what y'all think, okay? Would it be fair? And answer honestly, okay? So would it be fair to, to have prompts that are post 1920 on the APUSH exam? Okay, y'all go ahead and answer yes or no. Like, let's see if y'all think that would be fair, given that there were a substantial number of people that didn't. Okay, some of y'all think that'd be fair. People have had plenty of time to study, and so as far as that goes, which I'm wondering, out of the yeses, did y'all get to, I should have had the yeses subdivided in yes, my class got past, 1945, or no, my class didn't. So that's interesting. But you see here where a lot of people, there seems to be a consensus, about 80% say that it would not be fair in order to do that. But some of y'all finished the whole course. Yeah, but then you think about some classes didn't get past 1920. Okay, so with that, and speaking of that, I'm going to see what we can do here. Let's see any more. I'm asking Marco Learning for some screenshots of their new Instagram followers, so that I can do some shout outs there. Okay, so that's something that I think could be important there. All right, so we've got that. Let's see who's here. Maybe give a couple shout outs. Z period Strell. Okay, Z period Strell. And Lauren Franquez. Thank you very much, Riverstar. All right, so going on to the next. Now, I'm about to take a little break and rest my voice. Okay, we've got 6 spots left in the Fireside chat. I'm about to take a break, rest my voice. I'm going to be back in the morning at 10 a.m. Eastern time. And what I'm planning for that is going to be kind of like I said, like a freemium setup where it's going to play in front of everybody, but people can buy a front row seat to come in and ask questions. That's going to be the setup more than likely tomorrow morning, because it's going to get very chaotic. Y'all see how chaotic it gets in the YouTube chat? It actually works out better. Like it's the market. When you think about America, it's about capitalism. Thanks, Vanessa. So America is about capitalism. The thing is, when you think about the market, okay, that basically the people who want to ask their questions the most will come into the chat, and then the people who are watching will get a more focused review that's that's not as distracted. But I do plan to be live tomorrow on my YouTube channel at 10 a.m. and I think that we're going to, you can put slow chat on. I didn't realize you could do that. So with that, I don't think this hair is going to grow back anytime soon, but I think the barbershops are opening next week. So we'll see about that. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, remember, those of you on YouTube, look at the description. You've got a link to my APUSH DBQ page. And so that's got all kinds of great links. Remember, on my APUSH DBQ page, one last kind of summary of things that I've got available. Okay. So hopefully some of y'all are on my app. I'd love to see that. On number 1. But you can go ahead, if you like it, give it a good review. But it's just a simple little trivia app. We'll see what happens later. So Romulus APUSH review, it's available on the App Store and on Google Play. Remember that I've got a video on the APUSH DBQ. That's just a 10-minute video. I would think that would be an important thing to look at there. Okay, so go look at the new DBQ video. Also, that's 2013, the last time that the 19th century showed up on a mainline AP exam. Okay, my DBQ page, okay, which includes the link to Marco Learning's page with the free study guides. And remember, that is a study guide for every, like a beautiful 1-page study guide that you can print out, okay, and have ready for you and kind of think. I mean, this is a great way for you to study before the exam, just to look over these and look at it. And also, when you see which period it's coming from, you can draw it like you draw a card. Now I would time myself. And the other thing is, if it's a topic you're comfortable with, I wouldn't use open notes at all. But this is something that's available on my DBQ page. You go to Marco Learning there, and that link is there. So you've got units 3 through 7, and then we've got the rubric, we've got the annotation and setup guide, and also these DBQs on the effects of democracy and on Reconstruction. And you can view sample essays with detailed commentary from me. So it's like, what is it that readers expect to see? I'm going in here and showing you how to do everything. Okay, so how to organize your essay. I'm specifically noting here, this is earning this point, this is earning this point, this is an example of this. Okay, so these are some things that I'm going into very much in detail. So make sure that you are that you're getting into that, and just taking advantage of those resources that I have put out there. And remember that tomorrow we are going to be here at 10 a.m. and it's it's an honor. I tell you what, it's an honor that y'all have come over here for yet another wonderful Supreme Leader hangout. And we will be just looking forward to seeing y'all tomorrow. Go to bed at some time. I'm back at 10 a.m. Make sure you're in bed by 2. We're on quarantine time now, right? So make sure that you're in bed by 2. Don't stay up past 2. Actually go into stuff. I did. So those of you in the YouTube chat, you can go over to Crowdcast. You can get the New Deal thing. You know what? Y'all want the New Deal thing? Let's go ahead. I'll give y'all I'll go ahead and give, if y'all slow it down in the chat a little bit, y'all are going to see on the YouTube chat, I'm going to give y'all a link to the New Deal. Okay, my New Deal guide. Okay, so the New Deal guide just went up there. If y'all scroll up, y'all can find it. Okay, so I just put the New Deal out there, and yeah. So with that, was I just goaded? Thank y'all so much. Looks like somebody goaded me. Thank y'all. Thank y'all. Pog in the chat. I tell you what. Okay, so with that, like the secret, do we want to do a secret message? I thought with everything going on, I didn't really want to get, if y'all want to, just put Supreme Leader at the end there. Is that do y'all want to do Pog, or what do y'all want to put there? I mean, we could just, y'all want to do. Okay, so after you're done, just put Supreme Leader, like just put Supreme, just write Supreme Leader, and that, yeah. So if you want to do that, just put at the end of your DBQ Supreme Leader, and so if you want to do that, or try to put it in there if it's about Jackson, Supreme Leader Andrew Jackson. Like, you can also just have fun and put it in there somewhere, and all. Yeah, so the thing is, if y'all want to put Supreme Leader in there, but yeah, so that's something. If you put Supreme Leader, then you're fine. Okay, so we'll say that. You know what? Let's get that started. If we can then, if y'all want to put Supreme Leader on your DBQ somewhere, at the end, Supreme Leader, ooh woo. All right. So with that, if y'all want to do that, right, we will talk about that tomorrow. Supreme Leader. Okay, we'll just stick with that, and you can just put Supreme Leader, and that will be basically your signal that you're getting 5. So I will see the people who are here for the Fireside chat. I will see y'all in about 15 minutes. We still got 4 spots if you want one. That's going to be a fun time. It's laid back. We always have a good review. As I've said, nobody's ever been unsatisfied with those things. I mean, it's a great opportunity. Everybody leaves happy. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, it is always a pleasure, and I look forward to seeing y'all in the morning.